It's amazing when you just stand up in front of people and start to just find seats and quiet down. And isn't that magic? Welcome. It is wonderful to see all of you at our 2020 Tybee MLK Parade and celebration of human rights. It's a delight. For those of you who know her, be sure you give Julia Pierce an extra hug today because she worked really hard. My name is Jim Johnson. I'm a member of the MLK Tybee Committee. And as one of the committee, for all of us, I welcome you here. If you have any questions, Georgianne and Jan are at the desk right by the door. They'll be glad to answer anything for you. This beautiful t-shirt right here. Beverly has them in the back, and she will be delighted to sell you one or let you order one. Because and black goes with everything. It is the perfect fashion accessory. Put a little pearl necklace with it, ladies. So see Beverly to do that. I'm also going to invite you to become a member of Tybee MLK or a supporter of Tybee MLK. It takes a lot of people, it takes a lot of time and energy, and it even takes a little money from time to time to make events happen. And when you talk to Beverly about a t-shirt, you'll also find a way there to become a member of this organization. We would love for you to do that.
Also at the front table.
I'm sorry?
Also at the front table.
Also at the front table, yes. Are we ready to begin? Good. Father Jerry, if you would come for our invocation.
How good it is for us to be here. Let us pray. Holy God, today we remember Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s struggle for equality, justice, and dignity for African Americans that inspired so many other reform movements that seek to highlight the plight of the oppressed in society. We pray that all those in civil and religious authority be reminded that we have all been created in your image, and that there is an intrinsic dignity in each of us that calls for uplifting every man and woman, young and old. We pray that your Holy Spirit remind us all that you show no partiality with regards to nationality, race, or gender. And to do so is to go against your great commandment of love. We pray that the church will not be complicit of injustice by being silent, but that it can rise up with a prophetic voice that speaks truth to power and advances the values of your kingdom. We pray these things in the name of our blessed Redeemer, Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen. Amen.
Rachel Perkins, who is one of our members, has a welcome for you.
Good afternoon, folks. My name is Rachel Perkins, and I was absolutely floored when my dear friend Julia Pierce asked if I would give this welcome, this statement of the occasion. We are gathered here, the Tybee MLK group is gathered here as an effort to broaden the beloved community. For many, many years, there's been a divide of water between the two communities of Tybee and Savannah. It was kind of a scary road that connected us for quite a while. In fact, sometimes on Tybee, if you lived here, and I did for many years, you'd get what was called Tybee-itis. And Tybee-itis was called fear of crossing out Lazaretta Creek. And it wasn't so much as a fear as a laziness, I think. But many things have happened since then. And one thing is the Tybee Road has gotten better. It's been improved, its markings are better. We no longer have to fear the journey itself. And now I hope that when people cross that bridge and come out here, we go in whatever direction we do. We go and travel in that direction with a feeling of anticipation of what might happen ahead. But I got to tell you, there is a new paradigm, so to speak, amongst us. And I got to say, what we are really doing here in this room is we are trying to broaden the table to be inclusive of all the beloved community. And what we're doing here today is we are building the leaves to expand that table. Now, we do have amongst us somebody who represents us in Congress. And I would like to, I'm very proud to introduce you to our congressman, who might have a few words from Washington to tell us. Without further ado, Congressman Buddy Carter.
Well, thank you very much for having me here today. It's always an honor to be here. I think that I've been here 5 out of the last 6 years, so I'm very proud of that. Yeah, it's a lot of fun, as well as a great occasion to celebrate. 2 things I want to mention today. First of all, let me begin by recognizing Julia Pierce and thanking her for all of her work. She's done so much over the years for the extension. Also, and I know more will be said later, but Mr. Shinholzer, congratulations. Very well deserved. One of the things that I noticed is that, and I'm sure I'm probably the only one who noticed this, we got a lot of old mayors here. Not former mayors, old mayors. Walter Parker, Edmund Jackson, Otis Johnson, Jason Mitchell. Who else? Walter Parker. Wow, I mean, how often does that happen? That is great. As I said, 2 things very quickly. First of all, you know, in 1983, President Ronald Reagan signed into law that Martin Luther King Day would be a national holiday. But it's more than a national holiday. It is the only federal holiday that is also declared as a day of service. And that is very important because if we look back on Dr. King's legacy, we know that his legacy was one of service. His legacy was one of service, one of unity, one of love. And we celebrate that. We celebrate it once a year, but we should celebrate it more often than that. On somewhat of a personal note, and I hope that you'll bear with me here for just a second, but I have the honor and privilege, and I mean that sincerely, of serving in Congress with one of my colleagues who was one of the 10 speakers in 1963 on the National Mall on the March on Washington, and that is Representative John Lewis. As all of you know, Representative Lewis is in another fight now. He's been a fighter all of his life, and now he's fighting cancer. I hope that all of you will keep him in your thoughts and prayers, and I know that we will, and that we appreciate his service to our country and appreciate him and his service to Georgia as well. Thank you again for having me here. God bless you and God bless the Lord.
You will hear more about Mr. Shinholster and Father Marty a little bit later, so I will simply say, gentlemen, we're glad to have you with us. Van Johnson, the new mayor in Savannah. And coming in the door, the new mayor of Tybee Island, I would also like to let you know that we have, I've seen 3, if I missed somebody, let me know. We have 3 of the 6 council people for Tybee Island. We have Nancy DeVetter, Barry Brown in the back. I saw Monty Parks here.
You went that way.
Okay, they went that way. And Spec Hosty has just walked in. Thank you all. There are many things that we could not do in this city, events like this, without the support and the consent of mayors and city council, and we're very grateful for that part. Walter Parker is here with us, my favorite boss, because I worked for him years ago, and Jason Biltman is in the back. I noticed that Jane Fishman is here. I hope you're as big a fan as I am of what she does. We have some volunteers today who have worked for us that come from the United Way. If those people would raise their hands, because I did not meet you before the parade. Well, they must still be doing the parade route. We thank Alicia Esselstein for allowing and helping us to find volunteers to help us today. Every time you drink a cup of coffee at Tybee, and I hope you do a lot, please do tell Beth Martin how much we appreciate her design work for our program. We are very pleased that she did that for us, and for the one ad that I placed, man, she took it totally apart and made it so much better. I love it. It's wonderful to have that kind of graphic support. Molly Lieberman. Molly. All of the artwork that you see behind us is done by the kids in Loop It Up Savannah. And if you don't know what that program is, talk to Molly, because this is a fabulous program for our kids. Enjoy their work. Evan Jackson is with us. So glad all of you. And we have Leslie Taylor with us, who is the Director of Improvement for the Savannah Public Schools. You will hear from public school students a little bit later, and we are most impressed with that. Commissioner Jay Jones. And Alderwoman Keisha Gibson Carter. We're very excited to have you all with us. The speech competition that we do is one of the exciting things that we are so glad that Tybee MLK can support. And to introduce that to you and to introduce you to the students, Mr. Ben Goggins and Ms. Donna Allen.
Thank you, everyone. It's so exciting to be here and to acknowledge just the opportunity of these wonderful students that have come all the way from Savannah to Tybee Island to be here today for us. And we appreciate them getting up on a Saturday and coming here. We have a committee within the Martin Luther King committee, and what we do is we actually provide for there to be some type of a contest to include youth. And this year we designed a speech contest. And we started in about February, and we invited many, many different schools and organizations to attend. And we had over 80 submissions to the committee. And it was just, we are so blessed that we got to read all of this stuff. You're going to be getting some letters, I'm thinking, over here. But we have some wonderful advocates out there. What I like about advocacy is that it is ageless. Anyone can be an advocate. Anyone can. We all have voices. And so, without further ado, I would really like to introduce to you my better half, Ben Goggins.
Welcome everyone to this exciting event where we get to hear from these bright young people in the second row there. And it's funny, the older that I get, the younger that young people see. And I mean younger and younger that we're hearing voices of activists and leaders. And so we were very happy, as Donna said, with the response of over 80 students to the contest. And these 6 that you'll hear from today are really just the tip of the iceberg, the youthful iceberg. It's a sea change coming. And each student who entered the contest raised their voice. They spoke up. They didn't wait on the sidelines. They're not bystanders. They did like President Teddy Roosevelt urged many years ago. They stepped into the arena. So it's my pleasure to introduce these enthusiastic dreamers and leaders who give us real hope for a better world and a beloved community. First is Dorian Bond. Dorian, an 8th grader with a passion for nature and the environment. Dorian also engages in theater and acting.
Hi, my name is Dorian Bond, and my speech is entitled, "We Need to Change or the Planet Will." Our planet is dying. All around us, we can see the signs. Melting the polar ice caps, rising sea levels, increased severity of natural disasters, increased global temperatures. And I wish that I could say that it wasn't our fault, but I can't. There's no excuse. Every one of us is to blame. We've thrown caution and self-preservation to the winds. The number of people who have attempted to implement change are far too few. For decades, we've performed drastic actions without the thought of consequence. And for what? So that a select few people become immensely wealthy? We've done very little in moderation. Some actions as small as taking a car to go to a supermarket that was just down the street. Others as large as clear-cutting entire forests for the purpose of expanding a highway. These actions are going to be our downfall. Things aren't going to get better if we do nothing. Only we have the power to make a change. And we can start with the small things, such as biking to work or school. A typical passenger vehicle emits 4.6 metric tons of carbon dioxide per year. That number can be greatly reduced by not driving as much. Minimizing the amount of electricity used in your household each day, and simply being aware of your actions will yield positive results. And if you don't believe that climate change is real, then here are some eye-openers. The polar ice cap's reduction mass annually is 134 billion metric tons. In turn, the global sea level has risen by approximately 8 centimeters over the past 25 years. Over the past 4 years, global surface temperatures have increased by 0.68 degrees Celsius. If you don't think that climate change is real, how about you go and ask the families of the 5,000 individuals who drowned in Bangladesh from rising sea levels? Only we, as a population, can spread awareness and bring change. People can't do anything about the problems that they don't even know exist. If we work together, then we might succeed in saving our planet and ourselves. Thank you.
We'll have a group of them come up here to receive their awards and pose for some good photos. And next speaker, though, is Samuel Williams. Samuel is a 6th grader and a Savannah native. He's an active participant in church and in church plays, and he enjoys basketball and video games. Samuel.
Samuel Williams, and my speech is entitled to the Dreamers in America right now. Brothers and sisters, in the words of the great Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., now is the time to lift our nation from the quicksand of injustice to the solid rock of brotherhood. Now is the time to make justice a reality for all of God's children. When the Pilgrims came to America in 1620, they dreamed of religious freedom. By the time the Declaration of Independence was signed on July 4, 1776, the citizens of the 13 colonies had dreamed of freedom from England. When children sat at lunch counters and were sprayed by water hoses in the 1950s and 60s, they dreamed of new school books. They dreamed of attending schools closest to their homes. They dreamed of opportunity. America is home to the dreamer, a place where we can dream beyond our current circumstances. What is America without the American dream? Living in America today, there are more than 800,000 young people known as dreamers. The name comes from the DREAM Act, Development, Relief, and Education for Alien Minors Act. When the DREAM did not pass in Congress, President Obama decided to issue an executive order called DACA, Deferred Action on Childhood Arrivals. The purpose of the act and the order was to prevent the deportation of undocumented immigrants who were children when they entered the U.S. to be protected under DACA. Children had to enter prior to 16 years old and had to be here on or before July 15, 2007. Our branches of government must work together to find a way to citizenship for these dreamers. Dreamers could reach the point where they can no longer work in America. How will they eat? How will they eat or feed their children? If we don't act, their dreams will be nightmares. Can you imagine being a young boy or girl who pledges allegiance to the flag, but who also worries about being deported from the country to which the flag belongs? In their hearts, they are saying, "Yo soy Americano, I am American." Think about this. Hundreds of dreamers volunteered to serve in the United States military. They risk everything every day to protect our country without citizenship. In their hearts, they are saying, "Yo soy Americano, I am American." If no solution is found, dreamers who attend college to become teachers may never teach in the U.S. There will be soldiers who will have to leave the military service. We will lose the opportunity to add some great people to our country, people who have lived as Americans since they were young. Turning these dreamers away without a way to gain citizenship is wrong. America was built by dreamers. We cannot accept every person who might want to be an American citizen, but it is un-American to reject a group of people just because of their ethnicity. DACA has ended and solutions are needed. I have some ideas for finding a solution to citizenship for these dreamers. First, we need to inform ourselves by reading more about this issue. Second, as we can write, email, or call legislators to tell them what we feel is the right thing to do. Last, but very important, we must be open to listen and have conversations with each other. We must collaborate for the answer. In summary, DACA must be replaced with an opportunity for these dreamers to acquire citizenship. Like Dr. Martin Luther King said, and so, even though we face the difficulties of today and tomorrow, I still have a dream. It is a dream deeply rooted in the American dream. My dream is of an America that remembers and does not forget. This country was built by dreamers. It is who we are. Somos Americano, we are Americans. Yo soy Americano, I am American.
Thank you very much, Sandy. And our next speaker is Tinsley Godfrey Cargill. Tinsley is an 8th grader at the STEM Academy at Bartlett and has plans to become a pediatric surgeon. Tinsley.
Hello, my name is Tinsley Godfrey Cargill, and my speech is titled, Hear Us, We Matter. Did you know that women make up to close to half of the U.S. workforce? If all women quit their jobs, the U.S. would be in shambles. And whether you ignore this or not, you can't deny that women are important to our economy. And though we have improved greatly in the equality of all, we must acknowledge that men and women still aren't considered equals. But women have begun to speak up. Organizations like Me Too and He for She have encouraged women to speak up. And not just women, but men too. Because we've started realizing that this is a fight we should all be fighting. And more people have begun to realize that women aren't less than men. If nothing changes, let's face it, the economy will never really be at its best. Women play crucial roles in business and industry. Some studies have even shown that female doctors have better patient outcomes. While there are many women in different careers, the harder a job is, the less women are found in that career. In the surgical field, there are very few female surgeons. Only 19%. I make this point because I personally want to be a surgeon. When I was younger, my dad got really sick, and no one could figure out what was wrong. Not until his surgeon. I am so thankful for her, every day. But people have said that women are weaker and can't be successful in a job like surgery, which at times requires standing for several hours straight. I ask you, why would a woman not be able to do something like standing as well as a man? How can we be a society that tells girls, you can't be this? Just because some older men are saying that girls and women are weaker. Tell me, are we going to be the generation that continues to say no? Or are we going to be the generation that finally says yes?
Yes.
Did you know that even though federal law bans it, women are still discriminated against over the possibility that they may have a child? Why? Why do we punish women for the possibility of having a child? Why, when it's generally two people, two parents who will be involved in this child's life? My dad played a huge role in my childhood and continues to be actively involved in parenting. So why is the woman considered the main parent when he does just as much as my mother to help me? If women are being asked this question, why not men? If we let this continue, history could repeat itself, and we will never evolve or improve the lives of everyone. And isn't that the goal? To make everyone equal? The Constitution states that all men are created equal. But really, don't you think that they mean every person? That every person should expect and be granted the same rights as everybody else? If this is true, then why are women being paid less than men for the same jobs when they have the same college degrees? My grandmother told me about when she was choosing what her job was going to be. She had 3 options: to be a secretary, a nurse, or a teacher. I'm not saying those are bad jobs. I'm saying those were the only jobs women were allowed to get. We have come so far in terms of accepting what women can do, but we still have so far to go. The official definition of feminism is the advocacy for women's rights, based on the equality of the sexes. The theory of the political, economic, and social equality of the sexes. Did you notice how the definition never said that only women fight for this? No. Because we should all be fighting for this. And you don't have to call yourself a feminist to agree with the equality of the genders either. We all just need to be speaking up for this. You just have to support girls and believe that they can accomplish whatever they put their minds to. Believe in girls for your mother, your sister, or even the shy girl who always sits in the back of the class. Because we all deserve the same opportunities and chances. Because we aren't lesser. We are equal. And it's time the world sees this. Hear us. We matter.
Just so inspirational. These are our middle school scholars that submitted speeches for the contest. And I think Donna may have mentioned the prompt for the speech contest this year was to speak about something you were passionate about, something you thought you could make a difference in. And so it was wonderful to see among these 80 entries the wide variety of topics and causes and things that our young people are motivated to address. And so now moving on to our high school scholars. First is Tam Nguyen. Tam's a junior at Savannah Art Academy, major in visual art, and she speaks English and Vietnamese. Tam?
My name is Tam Nguyen. My speech is entitled Illegal Immigrants, List of Conditions. I grew up with a strong belief that a person's life is a book that's composed of several chapters, and reading from cover to cover of that book is the only way to get a complete picture. The highlighted chapter of my book is called Migrating to the Promised Land. It begins with the memories of my mother's tear dabbing in the corner of my shirt, while her rough callus rubbed against my hand and refused to let me go at the airport on a boiling summer night. Leaving everything I had acquainted since the day I was born behind, being forced to speak in another language, and integrating into a new environment are the things I consider as the bleak time of my life. Nonetheless, my struggle was just a drop in the ocean of problems that others encounter while achieving the American dream, especially those who laid their lives on illegal migrating adventures. Recently, the UK police was stunned when they found 39 decomposing corpses belonging to those who attempted to illegally migrate to England, stacked on top of each other in a refrigerated container. Unfortunately, this tragedy was just one among various stories of illegal immigrants who traded money, family, and safety to chase after opportunities and better living circumstances. Many may find illegal immigrants are being selfish for conducting such illegitimate act. However, those critiques have never put themselves in those shoes. If those shoes were worn, they could witness how poverty and the lack of government regulations are corroding their lives day by day. In fact, over 40% of Mexico's population is battling against poverty and low life expectancy. Sadly, these are the common feature of every single developing country across the globe. However, they acknowledge, not solve. The tragedy of 39 people demonstrated that the thirst for living a better life has pushed them to mobilize, regardless of the high risk they're putting themselves through. This sad story can also serve as an alert but how the undesirable components of the society are transforming these thirsts into their own treasures to exploit. If no actions are taken and no laws are enforced, more victims will fall for this trap and more innocent lives will be satisfied. Ignorance is always the root for every issue to stem and grow. Therefore, one of the best ways to prevent the tragic history from repeating itself is education. Having access to proper, up-to-date information and getting educated promotes self-defense against social evil traps and open the door for better financial opportunities, which can rescue those immigrants out of the poverty cycle. This issue can never be solved without a strong approach from the government, who should enforce a stricter ban on human trafficking organization and stronger punishment upon violators. I believe every single person was born carrying a moral mission to assist those in need and to support everyone despite their origins, skin tones, or languages. Indeed, many social leaders are executing their mission by creating amazing non-profit organizations, raising funds for projects aiming to reduce poverty and providing education for children in developing countries. If each of us donates a small portion from our plates, then together we could have a full plate to share for the unfortunate one. As I quote from Adam Braun, for any movement to gain momentum, it must start with small action. I have a dream that one day, every children will chase after each other on the playground under the bright sun, not locked up in cages and separated from their parents, which makes me I have a dream that one day, everyone can live their dream life without worrying about their next meal or their safety. I have a dream that one day, those dreams will not only be my dream, but also everyone else. A dream that any individual would give in a hand in order to make it become a reality. Taking action now is the only way to make this come true. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tam. And our next speaker is Ella Reynolds. Ella is a junior majoring in theater. She's a grateful person who is committed to social inclusion and is a member of the local community. Ella?
Go, Ella! My name is Ella Reynolds, and my speech is entitled, Let Love Be Love. How many of you had to explain your identity to your parents? How many of you risked being thrown from your house, banned from seeing your family, or forced to act differently because of how you identify? How many of you have been told that who you love is not normal or not right? It sounds horrible, and trust me, it is. But these fears, the fear that the people you have known all your life will not accept you for who you are, is a fear that is prevalent in LGBT teens, and one that is proven true far too often. Currently, teens who identify LGBT are 5 times more likely to commit suicide than their peers. They will make up 40% of the homeless youth population, which is made even worse when you consider only 7% of teens identify like that. 42% of teens say they are not in a safe enough space to come out to their family and community. Those numbers are staggering and represent horrible atrocities. It proves that while as a nation we are moving in the right direction, we still have a major gap to close. If nothing changes, the numbers will just get worse. As kids see a nation resistant to change, we will backpedal and make it an even worse world to come out of. The amount of suicide will increase. More kids will end up on the streets, and fewer people will feel safe enough to come out and accept themselves. If the world could just be a more accepting place, which I truly believe we could, then LGBT youth would be able to get the answers they need easier. They would not have to be afraid of the world around them. They would be free to experiment and find their own identity in their own time. The most important goal would be to break down the stigma currently surrounding LGBT identities. There's this message that it's strange and unnatural, both of which are very untrue. If there was less of a stigma, then kids would be able to figure out for themselves how they want to live. Best way to do this
Nothing will change if people do not understand the current problem. It feels like it's an us against them situation. It will stay an argument where someone has to be wrong, even when that is not the case. Educating people on the different identities and what they mean will help bring all of us to one side. Exposure is the next step. Already we are seeing more representation in media, books, and songs. If kids and teens see that their identity is normal, then they could feel more comfortable knowing they're not alone. They could see what is out there, that things can get better, that the world accepts them for who they are. Finally, it's important to have a conversation. If parents talk to their children, if teens talk to their peers, if teachers talk to their students, and if adults could just sit down and talk to each other. There's a way to just have a conversation. Share all sides of the story. Then everyone would be on equal footing. Concerns could be raised without feeling like an attack. LGBT teens would have a chance to explain their side of the story without being yelled at or judged. This current don't ask, don't tell, wait until you're older, accept but don't support this attitude that this nation has adopted will stand no longer. A change needs to be made before we regress to a time where identifying differently from the norm was seen as a crime. Education, exposure, and a conversation is the best way to change the current social stigma. And maybe, just maybe, we could finally live in a world where who we love is not seen as brave or unique. It is just seen as love. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ella. And our final high school scholar, who's going to deliver a speech, is still being modern. He's a senior and a son of Indonesian immigrants. He enjoys the challenges of the classes, and he's a top player on the varsity tennis team. Filmy.
My name is Hilmi Rukmana. My speech is entitled, Cries of the Climate. To all of those who doubted humanity, to those who doubted we could surpass the boundaries of medicine, to those who doubted we could find a cure for incurable diseases, this day, this generation is here for you. We live in an age where we have exceeded human limitations. We have found a cure for AIDS, the cure for polio, the cure for TB, the cure for measles. We have eradicated smallpox. We have eliminated what has limited us for centuries upon centuries. Yet, humanity can only seem to get so far before we start over. Although we have cured diseases, we now have a population exceeding the capacity of the earth. Although we have had leaders of centuries past that have been able to solve the impossible, saving us from the Great Depression, leading us through 2 world wars, bringing humans to the moon, we now have leaders that are losing sight of what we need to thrive. Let alone thrive, world leaders are losing sight of what we need to exist. The earth, the one place where we live, the one place where we know we can live, all that surrounds us. Only in the hands of God can I fathom to believe that where I stand right now can disappear. At this moment, however, the current future of where we stand right now is in the hands of a dozen of people. Not 1,000 people, not thousands of people, not a population of people, a dozen of people. The hands of these people have yet to feel the blood of their prey. They have yet to smell the stench of their rotten cries. They have yet to see the innards, the rotting insides of their kill. They have only heard the faint cries of it, the cries of millions, the cry of me. My cry to tell them to look around, to stare at their feet, to know that their very existence is still on this ground. No matter what action they perform, what legislation they pass, like me, like you, they are still planted here on this ground, acted on by the same forces as everyone. The earth holds no mercy to anyone or thing. We have seen buildings collapse. We have seen cities burn. We have seen civilizations disappear. People living there, in those civilizations, like you, like me, like everyone, just gone. Not even a thought, no hesitation, just here 1 second and gone next. Earth holds no mercy for anyone. Can you take a moment to breathe? Feel the air around you. touch the ground below you, smell the sense of whatever's around us. We feel security, we feel so safe, almost unstoppable. We can go about every day without notice of what could stop us. The tides come in every day, seemingly the same height every day, every night, no change, just the same. Yet, take a step back here. 2 years, a decade. The still water is still no longer. It rises. We have absolutely no control over it. By golly, do I wish I could just tell the water, please go down. Yet, it still rises. The same for the temperature. Year by year, we get hot, we get cold, we sweat, we shiver. No change, just the same. Yet, take a step back here. 2 years, a decade. The facade that was consistency only blocks us from the truth. The truth, our temperatures are not consistent. Our globe is warming up. Not peacefully, not calmly. Our globe is warming up without a care to what it harms. Can we do nothing? What have we been doing for the past few years? Nothing? No. Nothing compared to what we have been doing for the last century? No. We are never doing nothing. Yet we are never doing enough. We can scrape by just doing something, yet what mercy does the earth feel for us? The temperatures will climb past the moon, the sea levels will rise past the sun. Our globe will still be here when all this happens. Only thing is, we won't. What can I do? What can you do? We've gathered here to do something quite obviously. We can ponder and ponder, we can speculate and speculate what can happen, what could happen, what would happen, but what does happen? Us standing here today is what happens. We know just one of us, a billionth of the population, can do absolutely nothing. Yet, if one of us can change the ideas of another, if one of us can inspire the next, we can gather and make things happen. How did we cure AIDS? A group of us got together, worked together, and solved the impossible. The climate crisis has seemed to strangle humanity with no effort. But like I said, coming together, working together, we can do the impossible. We can let loose of the strangle. We can protest. We can write to our leaders. We can write to them for change. To change our policies on the climate. To change what could prevent us from having the ability to stay the same. We can support each other. She may be across the globe right now. She may be in a zero-carbon yacht. I know for a fact that she does not know me. But I support Greta. I support what she stands for, and she supports what I stand for. With her audience, with you all, together, stronger, smarter, and more wise than ever before, we can silence the doubters. Thank you.
For a picture. So come on up, everybody, and please sit down. Thank you, winners, for everything. And just as a reminder, we had over 80 activists that sent in a topic of their choice, so everyone's a winner. Everyone. You may take your seat.
We really enjoyed those speeches that the young people wrote. Very nice. When I was in school, I wrote a couple of speeches myself. But on the walls, it did not count. Dan Goggins and Julia Pierce invited us here today, and they did not tell me that I could not do a speech. And they did not tell me that I can do an original speech. So I guess I'm going to do it. But however, we're going to go on and continue our singing. On you, sir.
Mayor Johnson, I did not introduce you when we first went through, and I can't believe I missed a Johnson. They're the best family in the world. Mayor Otis Johnson. And our city manager, Sean Gillen, is standing, he's holding up that back wall to a very safe, it's not my fault, Mom stands there. It's so glad to have you with us. Yes, ma'am. One of the wonderful things for me about this event is that I get to meet people who have done great things. And it's such a pleasure to get to know folks like our Grand Marshal and Mr. Mace, Chad Mace with Mace Law Group. I believe you're to introduce him. Please come. Thank you.
Break right here. Take this microphone. The youth are the leaders of today. They're not the leaders of tomorrow. They're not the leaders of yesterday, but they're the leaders of today. So to our oratorical contest winners, our activists, and my leaders, please stand so we'll give you a hand. Dr. King once said that the time is always right to do right. When he gave his speech, I've been to the mountaintop, he described the place where the valleys would be exalted, the crooked places would be made straight, and the glory of the Lord would be revealed, that all men should see it together. He described leaders who would be more concerned with the democratic interests of our people than with the private interests of men. He described men of integrity, unmovable men of valor, men of vision. He described men like our Grand Marshal here. He described men who put just in the word justice. Men who marched for civil rights. Men who fight for their communities. Men who train up the leaders of today and inspire the leaders of tomorrow. True men, unmovable men. Mr. Richard Shinhouse.
Good afternoon, everyone. I had to stop and figure out a moment who Attorney Vance was talking about. Maybe couldn't be me. But I was also just thank Miss Julia Pierce and the members of the MLK committee. Thank you so much for this great honor. And again, to the young people, this has just been outstanding. These are the issues of today. These are the issues that must be addressed by those persons who seek to have political office and lead us, Mr. Mayor. These are the issues, and these young people have certainly done justice to these issues. I want to also just mention my wife is with me this afternoon. She would come today and drive for me. And then after I got out and found out a good company of former mayor and of my colleague, we decided to walk. So she's still growing. Certainly thank her. It's just, I just enjoy coming to be with you today. And I'm reminded though that some 60 years ago, and if anyone here who's old enough to remember, 60 years ago there were 11 students, about the same time or a little later, who were arrested here in Tybee simply for trying to enjoy the beautiful waters on Tybee Beach. Many of those students were from Alfred Beach High School, where I attended, and so among those was our former mayor, Mayor Edna Jackson. So it's just to come back here is like coming back to a place where we all can say things were started, to recognize and to deal with diversity, which has been one of the hallmarks of the NAACP over those years. So thank you, Attorney Mance, who is now the second vice president of the Savannah branch NAACP. I feel very comfortable in not seeking another term. Because I believe that Attorney Mance is ready to take over that leadership. We thank you. While I said, wanted to mention the 11 students who were arrested, I moved quickly to say that we have recognized progress. I've worked over the years with former Mayor Parker and his wife, who worked with me at Savannah Technical College for years, so we know of some of the progress that's been made right here in Tybee. But I have to say to you that the work is still not done. There is still more work to do. Yes.
Edna blamed me for her being arrested.
I'm sure she's forgiven me for that. Yes, but there is still work to be done in order for us to achieve that vision that Dr. King had for us. That's why it's important for this outstanding group of people called the MLK committee to continue this work here on Tybee. Dr. King said that he envisioned one day the sons of former slaves and the sons of former slave owners would come together and sit at the table of brotherhood. We have moved closer, but we have not gotten there yet. We must continue this work. These kind of things, the 7th annual MLK Day celebration has moved us closer to that time when that table will be enjoyed by all of our citizens here in Chatham County. You know, I have had the opportunity to, over time, notice and witness our changes. But I've also been disappointed sometimes when we have not done all of the things that allow this dream to come true. To allow these new voices is important. To have new and fresh voices at this table will hasten that day when all of us could say, free at last, equality is here for everyone. Thank you for being here.
A point of personal privilege, if I may. I want to introduce to you someone that you already know, Julia Pierce. She has been, for many of us, for me in particular, one of the most challenging, one of the most gracious, one of the most generous and lovely women I've had the opportunity to know. Elegant in appearance, poised and elegant in what she believes and how she does things. I'm here because she brought me here, and I am so grateful for that. Julia will introduce the winner of our Humanitarian of the Year Award. Father just told me, keep it short. I want Mr. Shinholster, please come up and let me give you your gift. And then I'm going to do, keep it rolling. Where's that photographer? Please take this picture.
This gift that we're giving is coming from the United Way Savannah Hands On. And they gave us this gift. Isn't it lovely? Yes, it is.
When it came time for us to choose the Grand Marshal, I went into Diaspora Marketplace, which is a store that Mr. Shinholster owns on Martin Luther King. And the Holy Spirit happened to have Miss Lillian sitting behind the counter. And Miss Lillian is the queen of Mr. Shinholster. And I said, please talk to him about doing it, please. And she gave me the litany of all the things he had done. And I said, please talk to him about it. She said, I'll see what I can do. Thank you very much. Thank you, Ms. Lillian. Now, we don't always every year award a humanitarian award. Not every year, we don't. But this year, we thought that it was very important. And last year, it was very important, 2019. I would like to have our 2019 winner of humanitarian, just stand up. Is he in? Our 2019 winner is Mr. Aldo Hart, and he is about affordable housing on Tybee. And he's done that for over 30 years with the Carbo House. And it's important. It's extremely important. And he's done that and helped us with that. So I'm going to move, and now I'm going to introduce our current humanitarian. His information is there in the booklet, so you can read that. We exist, Tybee MLK exists because of this gentleman. Because before, we're about bringing things together. He entered the priesthood late in life. But we're so glad that he entered the priesthood. Because he's been doing priestly work all his life. He's working with social worker, department of social work there in Savannah State. All that's to be read. But the reason I say we exist because of him, because he made the connection with our church, with MLK and the other Episcopal church in Savannah, which is a black church, an African-American traditional black church, which is St. Matthew's. And he had our church, which is a predominantly white church, go to St. Matthew's and be a part of that celebration. So people on Tybee got used to going to Savannah to the parade. And that's how we were able to get a committee of our own to have a parade here. Now the reason we have it so early is because we still go to the parade in town. The parade in town is actually on the 20th. It's always the third Monday in January. It is the holiday. And so don't say, well, I already did my holiday thing. No, this is just kicking it off. This is all it's doing. This is just kicking it off. And Father Jamie is going to come and talk. And I just want y'all to know that he is an inspiration to this community, and he's an inspiration to everyone that meets him. And I'm glad that he is our humanitarian of the year, and I'm glad that he's my friend.
Julia and I go back 20 years, so we have a lot of history. And I think maybe I should just sit down, because I don't know what else I could say to encapsulate this, but I just want you to know, first of all, that we don't have a choice about when and where we enter this world. We don't get to choose our family. We don't get to choose our country. In fact, we don't really understand much of that. It's a God thing, if you believe in God, and I hope you do. And as Julia pointed out, I'm an old man. I'm going to be 76 in March, but I'm only recently an ordained minister in the Episcopal Church. I come from immigrant families, like I think most of us in here. My father's family were French Huguenots, so they escaped France due to religious persecution. They got here long before this was a country. My great-great-grandfather, the Reverend James Maury, for whom I'm named, was an ordained Anglican priest. And he ran a church school that Thomas Jefferson was a student. And he officiated the marriage of Thomas Jefferson. And then my mother was the first child in her family to be born in the United States. She had two sisters to be born in what was then called Prussia, part of Poland and Germany. So I early understood a little bit of diversity, because my father's mother wasn't all that keen about her son, her only son, marrying some recent immigrant. But my mother was beautiful. She was beautiful inside and out, and she won my grandmother's heart, but it took some time. I was 2 years old when I finally met my father, because he was in World War II in Europe when I was born. And I was born in an Army hospital in Missouri, and then we moved to South Alabama. So I come from the deep South. My mother went to work when I was about 5, and we got this wonderful person, Sarah, a black maid, and she was just one bundle of love. And everybody in our family loved Sarah. Sarah was just the glue that held us together. My grandmother came to love Sarah. I learned how to shut peas and string beans, sitting with Sarah on the porch. And we would be sitting there listening to a black radio station, and I was introduced to gospel. And man, did I connect with black gospel music. And then sometimes Sarah would go to our old piano and start to pound out what initially for me was some strange notes on the piano, and it was what I would later understand to be the blues. Oh yeah. I had a paper route when I was beginning at 5. I took over part of my brother's route just around our house. But by the time I was 8, I had 120 customers. He wanted to move on and play football. So I had a very early exposure to diverse people, rich and poor. Then in 1958, when I was 14, at our church, St. James Episcopal Church, our minister stood up, this 1958, and he said that there was this colored lady moving back to Fairhope from New York City to take care of her dying mother, and that we were to welcome her with the love of Jesus on our hearts. And I was an acolyte up on the altar, and I looked around, just wondering what's going to happen. What are people going to say? Because Fairhope was, deep south. And we lost a couple of families, and that was about it. And then 5 years later, I would be at the University of Alabama when George Wallace stood in the schoolhouse door. And I witnessed that. I was living in an Episcopal church student house right across from Foster Auditorium. And we went over before the Alabama State Troopers came to form a human chain around Foster Auditorium. And so we witnessed that. And then our Episcopal College chaplain, Parson Emmett Griffin, escorted Vivian Malone and James Hood to every class wearing his collar. And he received hundreds and hundreds of death threats. But he persisted. So I had these early markers that have formed me to be what I am today. My Sarah died, I should have said this earlier, she died when I was a junior in high school. And it was only a week later that I found out. And I said, well, what about her funeral? My parents were, well, we don't know. And then I was up visiting my 90-year-old grandmother. And it's embarrassing for me to tell you this, but she said, Jamie, do you think there will be Negroes in heaven? And I said, of course, Nana. I said, what about Sarah? And she said, oh yeah, Sarah's in heaven. So, people can change. And I think when we have the young voices like you all have given us, and I think the fervor that you all have exhibited to us, just persist. I had a call to ministry from the time I was 7 years old. My father left, but I was in a Catholic school, and I came home shortly after starting school there and said I wanted to be a priest. And my very Protestant father said to my mother, Louise, I told you this was going to happen. And then in college, I made my sort of voice or call to ministry, and I told them that I was gay, and they said, well, just don't tell anybody that. And it was like, no, I don't think I can lie to God and God's representatives. So I took my next choice, and that was social work. And I've had a very full and meaningful career. And I had 20 years in the Army. This is before Don't Ask, Don't Tell. And, but finally, our church, just 6 years ago, here in Georgia, changed and allowed partnered gay people to the ordained ministry. And I've been with the same man, Dan, for 41 and a half years. And we were married in San Francisco on the steps of City Hall before Prop 8, and our church blessed our marriage 6 years ago. I would not be standing here today if I had not met Dan Because this was the beginning of the HIV virus. And it just took on a whole bunch of eligible young gay men. And I was an eligible gay man at that time. Now, I don't think I would be alive today. If he and I had not met and made a commitment to a monogamous, loving relationship. And I owe so much to him. Didn't like it at first, but they got used to it. And they love us. And there's a gay teen group that meets every Friday night in Savannah at the LGBT Center, right at 1515 Mill Street, at 7 o'clock. So spread the word if you don't know that. It was a group that I helped start back in 1994. So, I just want you to know, this is such an inspiring time. I had no idea it would be like this. I mean, it really is. And I just, as Gray Marshall, Shinhoster, leaned over to me after those 6 young folks gave their speeches. He said, "We're in great hands."
We're getting out. We have 2 mayors here. Before we go, we want them to say something. Okay, we got from Savannah. I'll give this young man. We're happy, very, very happy to have all our mayors here, all of them. And we had, there was mayors on Tybee I didn't know existed. Didn't know. But Walter helped me get in touch with Mr. Hendricks, and we're sorry he's not here, but he certainly was invited. And we tried to get in touch with the last mayor of Savannah, Mr. DeLoach. And if you speak to him, tell him we've missed him, but we want very much to know that he's a part of what we wanted to have here. But we do have Mr. Van Johnson, the new mayor of Savannah.
Thank you all so much and good afternoon. A pleasure to be in Tybee Island, where the only thing more beautiful than the beach is its people. I'm blessed to be here as well with all the women, Keisha Gibson Carter and Van, who've been hiding. And before mentioned, folks whose shoulders I stand, Mayor Wilson Johnson, Mayor Jackson, Senator Regina Thomas, and our Grand Marshal. You can't have him, he's out. But what a compelling day. I think I'm just done. And Ms. Peters, thank you so much for all that you have done for us. A lot has been said about the term 2020 vision. And I've really taken that to heart. 2020 is not a perfect vision. All 2020 means is that a person sees at 20 feet what they're supposed to see at 20 feet. So it's probably more accurate to say common vision or average vision is what 2020 vision is. And so for us, it's in Tybee and also in Savannah, it is time for us to utilize some common vision. And these young people have shown us the way. They are the fearless advocates, and if we don't get with them, they will run over us. And I'm excited about the running over us. From this and from their advocacy, let us use our 2020 vision, our common united vision, to see people that we haven't seen before, to see situations we haven't seen before, to see places we haven't seen before, and more importantly, to see solutions that we have not sought before. We're all in this thing together. Savannah cannot do well unless Tybee does well, and Tybee can't do well unless Savannah does well. And since you have this fabulous mayor, I've had a great relationship with all the other mayors for about 60 years on council, Mayor Uterman, and certainly the legend himself. We're looking forward to doing greater things together. We're just right up the road. And as you know, when a hurricane comes, it hits all of us. So God bless you all.
Excuse me. I think a lot of you will be happy to hear today that I'm losing my voice. So I won't be speaking very long, maybe a couple of minutes. My former mayor, Walter Parker, always tells me, Shirley, if you ever want to win an election, be brief. But fortunately, I'm not running for office Today, I couldn't be happier truly standing here and looking at all the faces and all of the amazing people who are the change that we all want to see. And I think the only constant is change. Now, we decide what direction that change is going to be. And as I sit here and listen to these fabulous women, young women and men, I'm just so touched by everything they said, by every topic they talked about was very personal in many ways to me, and I want to thank you so much. I also want to, of course, thank our wonderful Julia, and I have to acknowledge her wonderful husband, Valerie Pierce. He is also a change maker. And I want to thank my council members that are going to be working with me this year. I see Speck in the back and the others who have been here. And I'm just going to tell you really briefly, I'm from Atlanta. I grew up in Atlanta. We were proud to have Dr. King's legacy in Atlanta. I remember when Dr. King was assassinated. I remember the fear that went through the city, that went through the country. I remember Atlanta and Savannah were two cities that were too busy to hate. Those two cities stood proud, came together as a community, all of the religious groups, all of the races and the ages, we united. And that taught me from a very early age the importance of uniting, and that is what today is all about. It's about a united front. I had the privilege of working with United Way, and I understood again how that organization and all of the people and agencies and services that are so needed in our community work together. I had the opportunity to work with Mayor Johnson and Edna. In fact, I'm just going to say one quick thing about Edna and about Jason Butlerman and Walter. And we, and of course my lovely friend Regina, and you were involved too, Van. We, United Way used to always honor Dr. King through a week of service. We believed in his mission that if you want to make a difference, get involved in your community, do something. So we did many projects. One of the projects that we did together, Edna, you came out and we planted rosemary, beautiful rosemary in our Memorial Park. We had a service about it.
And rosemary, the meaning of rosemary is to remember. It's a symbol of remembrance. So I want y'all to go away today remembering how amazing you each are and how amazing we are together as a group. And music plays such a wonderful, wonderful role in our lives. And again, to you wonderful young people, thank you for everything that you are. And one thing I would just, I hardly ever disagree with my friend Dan here, but when he said that y'all were going to be running over us if we aren't careful, I kind of think y'all are going to be lifting us up and carrying us and inspiring us, because you have done that today. So please continue that. And again, thank you for allowing me to speak, and thank you, Julia.
What I found over the last 7 years is that when the program is over, I will get chagrin of the people that I did not recognize. So, you know, we gotta go. But I want you to know, I'm really, really, really glad you're here. Our humanitarian is back in his seat, and this is Eldo Hart. He's our humanitarian for 2019. And of course we have Molly. Molly from Loop It Up supports us. And if you're running for office, would you please stand? If you're running for the 1st congressional seat, would you please stand? Right here now. Ms. Briggs is running for the 1st congressional seat of Georgia. And we have Pat Gunn, who is a Gullah Geechee storyteller for. Couple more announcements. Announcement is this. On Love Day, February the 14th, we ask you to come out to Tybee. We have a racial healing forum that's going to take place Love Day at the All Saints Episcopal Church. It starts at 5:30. Come and have your food. There's a program we're going to talk about the weeping time of Georgia. If you don't know about it, read about it and then come. You won't be disappointed. Come to this program. So put that down. You have surveys with you, pencils and surveys. Please take time to fill out those surveys. This is how we know what's going on. How do we make this right and make it better each year? And I'm so happy that we have my sister Regina Thomas here with us. Thank you. She was one of our grand marshals. And we also have Mr. Finney from the EOA, and he's here with us. Someone from the school board, and she's here representing you. Thank you for coming. Thank you. All right. And if I forgot you, please forgive me. I love you. Mr. Attorney Mance, he is a confidant and an advisor. Thank you very much. And we will have now one of our members, and that is the Reverend Susan Hill, and she will lead us in our prayer. And then we're going to sing our song. You know, we're going to sing, lift every voice and sing, and we're going to get out. Okay, all right.
I know you guys are ready to go. You've been a great congregation. How many know you? Sorry about that. But anyway, I just want to ask you a quick question. So if you were at your work, or you're doing your work one afternoon, or you were at a meeting and someone called you up on your phone and said, hey, your house has been bombed, how would you respond? How would you respond? That's exactly what happened to Dr. King on January the 30th, 1956. He was living in a parsonage at a church where he was working in Montgomery, Alabama. Coretta and Yolanda, his baby daughter, were inside the house. And he got the message that his house had been bombed. Thank goodness everybody was okay. You know how Dr. King responded? He went to this angry mob in front of his home and raised his hand, and the crowd silenced. And he said, go home and put your weapons down. Go home and put your weapons down. Violence cannot be met with violence. Love cannot be met with, only love can meet violence. So as we leave here today, sometimes I have trouble driving down Butler Avenue without getting aggravated. So I just want you to think about how you would respond as you leave here today. Now, I'm sorry that Dr. King is not still with us, but I am so proud of his legacy and his work. I have a feeling that if Dr. King were still alive, that Julia and her group would have him here. You know how tenacious she is. This committee has worked diligently all of these years to develop this into what it is today, and I am so proud of each and every one of you for all of the work that you do, for being here today. So if you will, please just close your eyes for a moment. Take a couple of deep breaths. Clear your mind, settle your mind, calm your mind, and let's be intentional about giving thanks. I give thanks for each and every one of you here today. I give thanks that you are carrying on the work of Dr. King and his legacy. I ask that all of those who keep us out of harm's way are kept safe at home and abroad. Be with their families. And as you leave here today, I ask you to think about how you respond. It's not easy to respond with love, but that's what our legacy is and what we have been asked to carry forward. All these things I ask in your most humble name. Amen. Go in peace.